In this series, leaders from Stagwell and our agencies will discuss key trends, key topics that have shaped and will shape our business moving forward. We're kicking off with the next 5 years in marketing, which is going to be a deep dive into the future of the industry. Just introducing with me today, we have Mark Penn, who's chairman and CEO of Stagwell. He's built and led companies for 4 decades, from Penn to Burst & Marsteller and to Microsoft. We also have David Sable, vice chair of Stagwell and a 40-year industry veteran. He served as global chairman of Y&R. And we have Julia Hammond, who'll be joining us shortly, I believe, who is the president of Global Solutions at Stagwell and a tested creative leader with experience at both Deloitte and WPP. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Feel free to do so through the chat function in your Teams or browser window. So Mark, why don't we kick it off here and jump right in? Based on your years of experience in the industry within marketing and advertising, perhaps you could just walk us through some of the key evolutions that have occurred within the industry, outline where we are today, and then discuss some of the key trends that you think are going to shape the future of the advertising and marketing industry.
Thanks, Ben. And I'm happy to kind of give you all some insights in terms of some of the trends that I think are shaping marketing and advertising today. Of course, as Ben has pointed out, I was around when the fax was innovation, but today I'm pleased to say that we've got a lot more exciting things coming our way during this period. So I think probably most importantly, global ad spend is up. By 2025, we expect it to reach $1 trillion. I joke that that basically we're going to have nothing but no products at the end of the day. We're just going to have marketing and bots by the time AI comes along here, because marketing is certainly growing. As much as I find trying to kind of warm people up to the marketing industry, as a growth industry, it should be up around 9%, led primarily, of course, by digital ad spending, which will probably increase around 12%, over the year over year. And when you think about it, digital marketing and digital media has just overtaken conventional media advertising almost in an avalanche. When I started this business 8 years ago, we were grasping for the time when digital advertising would exceed conventional advertising. And now we expect it to be about 70% of overall media ad spend worldwide, and maybe as high as 75% of the overall media spent in the United States. And this momentum appears to be permanent, right? I think through 2028, you can expect to continue to see strong, almost double-digit growth, and you believe that it will go up to, either connected or addressable media will be about 80% of the total spend. What's growing? I think you said, well, why is this growing? Well, I think 3 areas are growing, and we'll cover those in a little bit more detail. Retail, what we call retail markets, social, and CTV, right? Even though search remains the single biggest block at about $90 billion in 2024, you see a lot of growth in these new ways to reach marketers because they're different, more immersive ways. I think that they're either in the retail case closer to point of purchase, or in the CTV and social better than those gunky ads that appear every time we're trying to read an article. Retail media, we expect to increase 26% in 2024, and that this category spending here will increase between 2023 and 28, basically triple, because you basically have Walmart, Target, Kroger, Instacart, all realizing after Amazon really made a big push here that they have customers that are near point of sale, and they could do that. That's why we're actually doing, a QR code business where we're picking up QR codes for restaurants and other places, and then trying to push point of sale for say alcohol or ice cream, all those things that are more voluntary in nature. So second, social network spending increased 16%. And, obviously there are a lot of domestic players that would like to get rid of TikTok because TikTok growth is expected to be almost 40% in 2024 and Instagram 20%. So advertising in these kind of video picture platforms is really what's happening in terms of social. And I think you also saw why we then also acquired Movers and Shakers because we believe they are the best TikTok video makers, on the planet. But it's all about social video. And interestingly, you're so used to ADD, longer forms. And I joke, longer forms considered 90 seconds. Longer form videos that then can have multiple ads are growing in interest and success, and they're easier to monetize. And then, of course, our friend CTV. It's just under 1/10 of the amount of U.S. advertisers spend on linear TV. So it's really just kind of a younger sibling here. If you kind of look at that, we expect CTV to grow, and to perhaps equal it, in 2028. And I think that that's kind of almost a subsection of that is ad-supported streaming. Nearly 1/3 of Americans, 105 million, used a free ad-supported streaming service at least once per month. So in 2023 compared to 1/10 in 2018. Now, ad prices on those platforms are lower. People are still experimenting with it. They haven't really switched their budgets. They're trying to figure out what the right formats are. You can pick up better CPMs there, $10 to $15 compared to 25 to 47 for subscription services like Hulu or Netflix. So you really kind of say, okay, digital advertising and marketing is growing. It's growing more on these three platforms of near point of sale, which will, point of sale is a counter to Google because Google is really was really the original point of sale market. Amazon came in here, and you're seeing the major marketing chains, and I think you'll see the pharmacies, do the same thing, and then you see the combination of social videos and connected TV are really the three legs of growth here. And of course, the wild card is what happens to TikTok and how that might benefit Facebook, if they exited, and how it might hurt Facebook, if in fact they don't exit and continue to grow, at these rates. Of course, you don't have to be a genius to say that AI is a trend. 67% of enterprise organizations anticipate increased AI investments in the next 3 years. I would assume that should be more like 95%. And I think that a lot of marketing professionals see data analysis, market research, copywriting. We internally see already, AI principally used in kind of turning text to video and creating images and pictures that otherwise, you would have, to get a cat in the mountains, you would have to go out and do a shoot of a cat in the mountains. And now those kinds of things are done kind of effortlessly. And then you could have thousands of different cats, and then AI research could figure out which cat you have, and then you could create a persona, instead of a research to judge how the cat's, which cat is most liked, or which cat that cat lovers would like by creating an artificial persona of a cat lover, just spitting out kind of examples here, but every one of our firms is kind of looking for those applications that really can speed up and make more efficient the marketing process. And our clients thoroughly expect that. And of course, for us, the biggest thing in AI will be, I always say we're a tech tech companies, tech company. Right now, we have people embedded on AI type projects in virtually every one of the major tech companies, helping, principally on the design side and how you design kind of new interfaces between people and computers in an AI world. Then I think you can look for more immersive experiences. Immersive experiences are a combination of augmented reality, extended reality, gaming. It's sort of it's not the metaverse, but it's almost the metaverse plus, a combination of reality. Esports and gaming, really come up to about $4 billion. I think you're going to see AR and VR, and I think again, I'm not sure the Apple Pro Vision is a great product. I'm not sure it really has killer applications at the moment, but nevertheless, I think you'll see some increased uses. But it does create this immersive experience where you're transported like the old holodeck on Star Trek into another world, and these systems are getting better and better at creating those. And last but not least, political ad spend. My friend, we expect that to grow 29% from 2020 past $12 billion. TV is the preferred medium, but obviously digital political advertising is growing, faster. Grew 156% in the past 4 years to kind of $3.5 billion, out of that 12 billion. So you're still gonna, I think that political will still give a major boost to the TV networks. It was always, we always tried to advertise, on news or as close to news as possible, because news viewers were the most likely to be voters. And so I think you see the continued trend of political growth. I actually think now, I always thought that this would be the biggest election in history. I realize now that 2028 will be the biggest election in history, because neither of the candidates who are running will be running in 2028, which means that they'll have two primaries, and two primaries leading to new candidates on each side with no incumbent is likely. So I think you're going to see, continued political growth. So that's kind of my overview of, trends in media and marketing. Part of what we've done now is design our model, in terms of interfacing with enterprises, and how we differentiate our model between what WPP, Omnicom, and Publicis do. So I'm going to turn this back to Ben to turn it over to Julia to give you kind of a firsthand look at what our model is for handling large global accounts compared to the others.
Thanks, Mark. There's great insights, and it's great to get your perspective on how things have been shifting. Let's bring Julia in here. Julia, you've been super involved in reimagining how Stagwell delivers services to our clients. But based on what Mark's just highlighted, can you just maybe run us through the model of the future to deliver kind of exceptional outcomes for the clients and the customer? Got you, Julie?
I think Julia's having some broadband issues.
I think she froze.
Well, she definitely froze.
So, well, Marcus, as we're getting Julia back online, perhaps you could kind of run us through kind of what the vision of Stagwell and kind of how it maybe has shifted over the course of the last couple of years. Obviously, 8 years Stagwell has been a company, but would be great to kind of get your perspective on how things have shifted and how maybe your strategy as the CEO has shifted over that time.
Well, look, I think, again, obviously we know that marketing has shifted from a conventional, from an interesting ad that is a 30-second film, and then that's placed on television, along with companion ads in newspapers and outdoor. And then I think what we've seen is the big companies had to modernize, right? And so they had to shift to something that was more data-oriented, more digital, but fundamentally they had huge levels of assets so that they still have a person in every single country and every single city. And so they're not really able to take full advantage of the technological revolution in working with global clients. I think that the model that we've built then enables us to come in fresh and say, okay, in the global world, how do we, in kind of the transformed marketing world, how do you service global clients and do so efficiently and effectively? And how do we, as Stagwell, kind of coming up in the kind of $3 billion, nudging up to $2.5 to $3 billion, how do we, as Stagwell, design something that meets the needs of these clients and pushes back on the bloated model of the competitors? And Julia is back, although still a little broadband challenged, but.
Yeah, I apologize. My hotel Wi-Fi keeps going in and out, so I'm dialed in from my phone right now, which is less than ideal, but I will do my best to stay present as long as the internet gods allow me to do so.
Well, Julia, while we have you, why don't we have, hopefully we can keep hold of you for it. Would be great to get your take on sort of, and you've been part of reimagining how Stagwell delivers services to clients. Perhaps you could talk about the model, right? Like what is the model that Stagwell's doing that you think is the model of the future for holdcos?
It's a good question. So I think, like, first of all, we don't want to call it a model, right? Because we talk about Stagwell as a platform. That's what really makes it different. I think a lot of our legacy holding companies that we compete against, they're built on the back of the talent arms race. So they've got these massive organizations all around the world, and when scale was the only thing that mattered, that's how they would win. They'd have great talent, and they would be available all around the world. What we've built here, because we've had the good fortune of being able to build for the future, build for the needs of a modern marketer, we're able to put together our talent much differently. So, thanks. There's slides. Great. We can go through these. We don't need to, but we can. But yeah, really, it's about getting to a place where we can operate differently. If you want to go to the next slide, we can talk a bit more about what this means for us. So we have talent all around the world, absolutely. Talent all around the world is great, but if they're not connected by data, by systems, and by the kind of low value tools that humans used to do, but now we use a lot of technology to do, it's really doing the clients a disservice, right? So we have to build a platform. We call it, it's kind of a fun thing that I think actually Mark coined in the middle of a pitch. We talked about it in terms of regulation renegade. You need a bit of both. You need the regulation of systems that stitch our company together, and not just stitch our company together, but actually stitch us together with our clients. So we build portals where our clients can interact with us, where they can look after work in progress, where they can collaborate alongside of us, and we can really form one team, but it's an integrated system that everybody works off of together. And we've got these renegade talent groups all over the world that, because we're all operating from the same system on behalf of a specific client, we can deliver in a more unified and efficient way. So can you go to the next slide? Because I know this is something that a lot of different companies talk about, like everybody's got their specific tech solution. But we want to go through the 5 things that really make this different. And I'm not going to drain this in detail, but really the thing that makes Stagwell unique, we're one of the few companies out there that has research on demand and talking to 2 million people a day around the world regularly. Every single day, we're able to keep a pulse on really what's going on. And that research on demand is available to our clients and stitched together with those local market insights that we're gathering constantly. We're able to actually bring together data upstream to inform, and then downstream to measure impact and optimize. And that's a very unique proposition. Not a lot of our competition actually is doing the kind of research and polling that we have just integral inside of our company. The next thing we have that's really different, we don't focus all of our energy around building that M3, right? That media mix modeling. It's really about understanding the CX. And this is taking from things that we've learned from other tech partners, like, call it a Candy Crush or Mr. Beast, who's able to build a complete connected ecosystem around what they deliver. And, Mr. Beast, we talk about a lot as a business model, who's securing, a Super Bowl's worth of eyeballs onto his content every week. how can we learn from surrounding consumers with different kinds of ways of connecting versus just pushing straight media at them over and over again. The fourth thing we talk about is a centralized production engine. We've taken all of our high value and high volume content creation capabilities, blended those all together, replaced a lot of those sort of low value but high volume capabilities with technology and AI capabilities, which leads us to our fifth thing is technology as an accelerator. That's a real differentiator for us. I know Mark talks a lot about the Stagwell Marketing Cloud and how we're leveraging technology to build something really truly differentiated inside of our ecosystem, and that shows up inside of our operation. If you want to go to the next slide, it's just a real quick visual of how this works together. Like I talked about, that upstream insights, that's data driven. That gets us into a place where we're really understanding a central idea or campaign, or perhaps it's a roadmap to develop a new way of working with a client, whatever that is, all the way down to a more tech-enabled governance, operational, and delivery model that funnels throughout our entire ecosystem. This is unique to depending on which client we're working with. It's slightly modified here and there, and it adapts to the specific needs of our client. But this is generally how we operate as a complete organization, and what we mean by building this platform. That bottom part of the funnel is really it's technology and systems. So can you go to the next slide, please? Because if you think about the complete supply chain, that content supply chain that every single client we talk to is desperate to deliver against, we have to use technology to accelerate our ability to deliver. And so we're pulling in AI at every single part of this process, whether it's research to pre-production, to sourcing imagery, to delivery and optimization. We have the technology that's helping our people deliver more impactful solutions to our clients ongoing. And then finally, just a quick snapshot on AI, because everybody likes to talk about AI. These are three ways that we're using AI right now to innovate with clients and deliver something slightly different than our competition. So one big one, self-correcting metadata. So we're collecting so much data every single day. That's no secret or surprise. But what happens is we don't have a lot of companies don't have a unified way of ensuring that data is absolutely correct, that we're able to have that data connect with the assets that we're creating, that the data travels in the appropriate ways, and we're able to monitor and measure that data ongoing, connected to a specific asset or a specific action that we're having a consumer take on behalf of our client's investment. So we're using AI to ensure that data cleansing is a part of the ecosystem, and we're able to deliver that value to our clients ongoing. Second thing that we're doing, we are building AI personas that are, out in the world, and we're able to use as research. So we're doing that in a couple of different ways. One, we're building actual AI panels. So we're able to essentially pre-test creative on behalf of our clients before it actually gets into market. So quick example of how one of our agencies has done that on behalf of a betting company in Ohio. Betting company, can you go to the next slide, please? So a betting company comes into the marketplace. They want to, figure out how to connect with local consumers who are interested in sports betting, and anyone from Ohio is going to know that a Cavs fan is going to operate very, very differently than a Buckeyes fan. So how do you ensure that you're serving the right messages to the right consumer that's going to get them into that hook and get them to start participating with this platform? Well, we're able to build AI personas that one is a stereotypical Cavs fan, and we understand their media behaviors and the things that they're interested in, the kinds of things that they're looking at, and the followers that they have. And we're able to essentially design that artificial human to evaluate our creative and see whether or not it's going to make a difference in the impact. So we're able to go confidently in front of a client with an asset or a collection of assets via campaign and say, we are confident that if you spend the media dollars behind this content, it'll make a bigger impact on your business and it'll deliver the results that you want. So it's a very different way of thinking about research, and it's something that was just a part of how we're continuing to evolve as an organization, because because we are a platform. We're constantly looking for new ways to think differently about delivering value to our clients and innovate within the tool sets that we currently have and dream up the next way of leveraging them differently.
Awesome, Julie. Thank you so much. I think we're going to need to dig into some of these individual elements, but I want to bring David in a little bit first of all. David, I think you're coming up in about 6 months here at Stagwell. Would be great to get your perspective on like what's different for you, right? You've had this amazing career in the industry. What sort of has set Stagwell apart for you over the course of the last 6 months or so?
So let me build on what Mark and Julia said. Sort of obvious to the people, which I'll get to at the very end, but I want to talk about the differences. I want to talk about why we really are different. I think that's, to me, is really the critical issue. When Julia says that we don't have a model, that's not just semantics. We've been in a number of business presentations together, Julia and I, where we say to the client, what was the last agency that was in here? They probably talked to you about their new model. And they want you to adapt yourself to their new model. And it's amazing. Every time we do this, you see that people go like this, their eyes roll. And we are a platform. Why would a client want to adapt themselves to an agency's model? Like, the absurdity of it is beyond. But that's the old model, because they were so big and they had so much enterprise that they had no choice but to say, here, we've got a model, we need you to fit into it. I think the Stagwell platform is organic. We come to a client, we work on their tech platforms. We can adapt ourselves to any tech platform that our clients have, and we do that. And it's critical to us for the clients to understand that that is truly an incredible difference. So the notion of Stagwell being a platform and not being some top-down management business is huge. And we expect that everyone is going to hear over the course of the next few months why, in fact, and we hear from clients why that makes such a difference and why that's different. I'd say that we also are very much about people first. See, when you have a platform like ours, a tech platform, you still can never lose sight of people. You can't lose sight of your people, because clients still want to have the best people to be able to consult with. They want to have the senior people at their fingertips to help them with their issues. And what you try to do with the AI and with all of your automation is to take the things that are sort of at the lowest level, the things that are really commodity, and just take the cost out and make it easier, make it more efficient. But you never want to lose that human loop. In fact, I recommend that everybody read this story about Sam Altman's library. It was in the Times over the weekend, about Sam Altman's library that he built in their AI, their magnificent offices in San Francisco. And what he talks about is he wants real books there because he wants his people to understand that the human loop is incredibly important. And so when you look at our personas, and you look at what we did, for example, in Ohio, what's fascinating is that there is human loop in there as well. So we create these personas, we use AI to create the persona, but the team goes back into the marketplace and talks to real people, because the advertising is going to real people. The offers are going to real people. And what you don't want to do is create a loop that's just created by AI delivering more AI. You want to always make sure that you're validating yourself in that loop with the human piece. And we think that that's incredible too. So I think when you put it all together, I said the last thing as well, I'll just say, is that we value our brands. We value our brands incredibly. And so when we go to market to a client, we don't create some homogenized team and say, yeah, it's no problem. We'll take 10 people from here and 10 people from there and 6 from here. We'll call it something, whatever you want to call it. If you don't like them, we'll replace it with them. Our brands are unique. They're all best in class. They all have incredible cultures. They all have incredible expertise. They all have incredible people. What's critical for us is to make sure that our clients understand it. There's a reason that we bring those companies to the table. And our job at the Stagwell level is to enable and help those companies come together using the technology and using the Stagwell platform in the best way possible to create the best possible outcomes for our client. And we think that that's unique as well.
Awesome. I think we need to sort of separate this into the human and the tech for a second. So I get a lot of questions from investors pretty consistently. And so maybe the first one I just kind of want to jump into is around data, right? Like, investors, the breaking down of the data ecosystem for some brands, right? So that's cookie deprecation, that's disintermediation of consumer data across an ever-expanding range of touch points. Like, how are we accounting for this customer sort of imperative when we think about the future here? Maybe Mark, that might be one for you, sort of our data spine and talking about that.
Well, once again, the cookie did not disappear. So this has been put off, but I think that the cookieless future is generally predicated on what we're building, which is to have an ID/knowledge graph of essentially every person, and that's built on top of like a TransUnion or other credit card, and then adding to that the various marketing interactions, and then also built on customers' first-party data. So if you look at the general principle of digital marketing and advertising compared to offline advertising, the whole concept is that the marketing will be improved because you will be able to find your customers and your likely customers on an efficient basis. You'll be able to create a top, middle, and bottom funnel, all of which are driven on a more personalized, customized, and targeted basis. And of course, the goal is to get the cost of that system down so it doesn't put people out of business, right? And so the promise of the internet and digital advertising, right? And I think you're seeing the market open up with more competition. As I described, there's social, there's streaming, there's retail marketplaces, so that soon, as you can see, there aren't just two places to go. There's a multitude of places and techniques that marketers can use the digital ecosystem to find it. But what we're doing here, and also we expect in the next year or so to be able to extend out to have a DSP and SSP so that we can offer clients, full service all the way through to actual placement. And I think that we're going to develop going down the value chain. So our two main things, just to review, create the ID graph, add to that ID graph both third-party, first-party, and our own first-party data that we gather through surveys and other sources to make that a unique data set that's maximally useful for marketers, and also extend down the value chain so that we can, again, also offer our customers, a lower cost, more effective media avenue.
Mark, can I add to that for 1 second? What Mark said is the core of everything that we're going to be doing. And the piece that he added at the end was our own unique data set, which is where the insight comes in. And I think that is what distinguishes us here. And so if you think about the model that Julia showed you before, insight was at the top of the construct. Because the notion, data is critical, because data helps us find these people. The better our data is, and we think that our ID graph is going to be the best, we'll be able to find you those people quicker, cheaper, better. But it's our ability to provide insight into who these people really are, what really turns them on, where's the human serendipity here, and then take that and use it on the creative side as well. I think that that's the piece where the magic comes in. The magic that gets attached to the technology is really, in my view, the piece that distinguishes us in the market.
Yeah, just to follow up with David, just to give you a somewhat less relevant but core example. It's Newton could have gotten all the data on all the apples falling on the entire planet, but it would have meant nothing without the insight that there's a force of gravity bringing the apple down. And it was that insight that can be tested against the hypothesis that is really what makes for success. And data alone, helpful, points you to that, but ultimately it is an insight like that that then drives, a successful marketing campaign.
Exactly.
Let's riff off that, because I think it's an interesting point. We're moving towards a more tech-driven, tech-enabled future, right? But the history of advertising has been about the big ideas, transformational, creative, effectively human beings creating ideas, right? It'd be great to kind of get your sense on kind of where do humans fit into this new model, or are they going to become obsolete? It'd be great to get your perspective on that.
Well,
maybe
talk
Mark.
To my bot. No, look, I think seriously, we know that marketing and marketing materials, come in different levels, right? And at the highest level, it will take even greater, creative inspiration to build marketing platforms, that will be successful. And we know that downstream from that, creating thousands of pieces of content that meet the standards of the original idea, right? If the original idea is to have a baby on a tire, it'll be possible for AI to generate lots of baby on tire pictures, but it would never really be possible for AI to come up with a concept that we're going to show the tires are so safe that you can trust your own family and your own children as represented by that image. AI could never, at least in its present form, and hopefully not for another 50 years, make that leap. But it can, once that leap is established, once that insight, it does do a good job of creating related content and blowing out the campaign, more effective. That's why I think you're going to see the biggest utilization of AI in the content by the pound business. And I think you're going to see the continued, what we tend to do here is while we offer that as a service, it's a much smaller part. A much larger part of our enterprise is the top level creative and strategic thinking that I think in this world becomes, even more valuable to differentiate in a world where everybody has access to the same ChatGPT models, spewing out the same answers. That kind of human creativity will actually have an even greater value in that world. And the easy things, look, I always point out, when I started the survey business, I used to have, key punchers and 50 interviewers, and so content creation, I think, will be greatly simplified, through what AI can produce based on command.
Yeah, Ben, I think if you think of big ideas as platforms, right? So if you take Mark's tire and baby example, that's sort of a platform idea that came from some insight that somebody had. But now, using the AI, not only can you create lots and lots of that, but think about it. In America, in the United States, we have bigger cars with bigger tires. In some other country, they're not driving cars. They've all got tuk-tuks or bicycles or mopeds or whatever. And so those, and maybe it's not a baby, maybe it's something else. But the ability, and you saw this in what Julia showed, the ability to take that local insight, apply it to the big idea on the platform, and then create the relevant piece of content from the core idea is what makes us different. This puts, the notion of matched luggage, which still surprises me how many clients and agencies still do that, where everything they think is success is everything looking the same all over the world. when it's really not the case, because it's just about the platform. If the platform idea is big, it shouldn't look the same every place. It should be adapted locally by local insight. And so the ability to create that content is critical. I think the other thing to think about, and Mark is 100% right about the bigger content, right? The big thought-provoking content. If you think about what's happened in production and the stuff that we watch, whether we watch it streaming or else, it doesn't make a difference. Movies, it's all the same. Never in the history of humanity, since we started making film, has production been better. Has production been so, we're literally in a golden age here. And so if you go back 10 years, everybody said, no, everything's going to be CGI, and it's really going to be cheap to do production because nobody's ever going to go out again on set. Everything's going to be on set. It's going to be CGI. Nobody's going to go out into the field. Nobody's going to go out on location. It's exactly the opposite. And so, when you watch Game of Thrones, CGI, obviously, unless that dragon is real, I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can tell me. But everybody, it's all on location. It's unbelievable. The detail is magnificent. Shogun, the which was just on Hulu. If you read about that, the detail, the attention to every little stitch in the costumes was amazing. So people, the humanity here, the human piece of it, to create the best possible content, whether it's film, whether it's going to be written, the next Harry Potter, with all due respect to ChatGPT, is not coming out of a computer program. And I don't think it ever will. Yes, there'll be books and people read, but remember, it's not that long ago that people said, well, the next new novel is going to only have 180 characters because it's going to be limited to whatever social media thing it's going to be on. But it's just not true.
And also,
what's great is great.
Also, brands don't push the lowest common denominator. If you think about, like, we're right now in a project where we're doing 6 15-minute videos. It's an interesting project that will be unveiled in a couple of months, and it involves someone speaking and then surrounded by really interesting graphics that illustrate the 15-minute talks that they're doing. And to get the kind of graphics utilizing state-of-the-art technology requires top professionals to use the tools to make an incredible video, so that it is not, we push a button and AI figures out all of the relevant graphics. AI would do a very, very poor job of that. And in fact, it requires teams of kind of highly trained producers using those tools to drive a product that is truly differentiated. And so while there will be a lot of crummy product out there, there will be easy content by the pound. The differentiating stuff that big brands need are still going to be driven strongly by creatives who need to have more skills than ever before.
That's great. Before we throw it out to a couple of questions, I want to invite Julia in and get your kind of take on the role of the human as well, scale production, all those kind of things. It'd be great to get your thoughts on some of these topics.
Yeah, I mean, I think David and Mark really covered off on most of the points. I think, the way that our organization has deliberately taken production into a centralized engine means that we're trying to just keep more of that work in-house, right? I mean, there's a ton of talent inside of the network, and the way that we're able to systematize the way we operate the different production capabilities around the world now versus how we were able to do a couple of years ago, it means we're just keeping a lot more of that money filling the coffers of our agencies rather than sending it out to outsource, simply by connecting dots and opening doors to each other. So it's a very deliberate part of our model, and I think it's leading to a lot better results for our clients because all of the pieces and parts are now completely interconnected.
Let's get to a couple of questions from the audience here. I think some of these are really interesting. First of all, sort of riffing on sort of AI and creative and things like that. One of the questions I get quite a lot is about deflationary pressures, right? Like what's going to happen, what's going to happen as generative AI is looped into the creative, into the creative ecosystem and becomes more engaged in it. What's that going to do to revenue, and how is sort of Stagwell positioning on that one? I don't know which of you would like to have a run at that, but I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said at the corporate meeting, and I told all our agencies, I believe we're a cost declining industry, and that every agency has to look for how it declines in costs every year, through its processes. Now, cost declining doesn't mean that your revenue losing, because what happens is as what huge corporations can afford becomes more affordable, typically volume grows. And again, I have the most experience, say, in the survey business where, as I always illustrate, we went from 60 people doing a survey to 2 or 3 people, using internet tools to do a survey. And yet we do about $250 million of surveys, and our margin is perfectly good. I don't think we're going to see that level of condensation here in terms of production of content and media, but I do see every year, you should be able to simplify and reduce costs. But I think on the other hand, what clients demand then goes to a higher level. That what would have passed for an ad in the 1950s, if you take a look at it, wouldn't make it for 2 seconds, in this decade. That people expect higher and higher degrees of perfection, of editing, of interesting, visuals, and so if you look at like how are you going to market an EV, right? Well, you're not going to market an EV with like a plain, video that could be shot on an iPhone. It's going to have to be really something that is so attractive to people through the creative content, and that utilizes all of the tools, that are at your disposal, that it becomes closer and closer to, basically making a blockbuster, using the tools that you see in blockbuster movies that were previously available only to them. So I think that's the progress. Simplification of a lot of processes, but at the same time, moving up of the standards of creativity and production, and some democratization of the ability for more companies to spend more on marketing successfully.
Yeah, I'd only add to that and link it to what I said before. Like if you imagine that in general, the quality of production has gone up. So the quality of what we associate our ads to has gone up. So who wants their brand with some crappy advertising linked to some brilliant, beautiful piece of content that's been created that people are watching because they love it? So this notion of that everything has to be faster, cheaper is the wrong notion. It needs to be better, and it needs to be market price based, as Mark said, on what happens when we get the, for the type of content that we're able to take cost out of, but the end product has to be spectacular.
Right. I don't think people understand that when marketing becomes cheaper, it doesn't make sense for a company to cut back on their marketing. When marketing CPMs drop, it makes more sense for customers to expand their marketing, because they can now bring in a greater volume and profit than they could at the old cost curve, right? And so that's why marketing doesn't shrink in the same way, because what happens is less expensive marketing opens up more frontiers for greater volumes for the company to sell.
So Ben, your question about generative AI specifically in the creative process and how is that going to impact us? I think like one thing I want to make clear is we are already using Gen AI inside of our creative development process. So there's I can break it down a couple different ways we're using it. Number one, we're using it for finding the right assets inside of stock or inside of existing footage or content that we can acquire and license. One way we're using AI to help us find and generate more ideas. A lot of times we use AI to generate more and more concepts or more idea statements that we can then put into testing to see what's going to resonate with the consumer. We're also using AI to pre-light pre-production. And so when you used to spend days figuring out lighting and angles and how exactly are we going to position the camera and then what are we going to film, we now can do that virtually by using AI rather than using the man hours of days. So we're taking that money out of that pass-through cost that goes back to a client for that production expense. And then finally, we are using AI to, I mean, we already talked about earlier, like to generate lots of versions and content by the pound. So generative AI is already very much inside of that content supply chain that we talked about earlier. It's not coming; it's already here.
Good stuff.
Bingo.
A couple of questions that I've got queued up, which I wanted to ask and get some people's perspective on. First, a question from Barton Crockett at Rosenblatt. He's asking about the outlook for search, and he's saying, given share gains by retail media networks and the change in the search experience from AI, what's kind of your thinking on search?
I think that Google, is going to fight for its market share here. I think it's going to be pushed to do, more innovation in terms of how it interacts with consumers. So I think, look, I've always said that we've moved from the year of kind of tech pullback to the year of tech competition. And if there's retail media, CTV, online, national events, just to go back, by the way, to the earlier question, the days where you can just make a TV spot and put it on, today you have to make 10 different kinds of content, that suit, each and every medium, as it goes on. But I do think that there's, if you think of Facebook and Google as you were all kind of sitting here a few years ago and probably saying, look, it's all going to be Facebook and Google, and of course along comes TikTok and retail market, all this. The thing is, it's a growing marketplace, right? If you have double-digit growth, is there still room for Google growth? Yes, but they still have the most unique data set on the planet. Yes. Will they invent new products that are competitive in nature? Yes. So will they grow in proportion to the marketplace? That will really depend upon, the steps that they make and how they apply AI. I don't think that the dice is rolled on that yet.
But let's take a look as well from the point of view of advertisers, our business and our clients, because I imagine a piece of the question might be rooted in this as well. Today, you type in your query, you get an answer. So everybody says, oh my God, this is the new search. It's way better. It's only a short matter of time before advertising starts showing up. And we know they've already talked about it. We know that every single platform that said they're never going to take advertising ends up taking advertising and ends up being funded by advertising. So there's going to be a whole new system for us to learn, which is going to be how advertising shows up in chat, how we adapt advertising to chat, and how we work with our clients to make it really efficient for them. So my bet is that within the next year or so, we're going to start seeing that, and we're going to have to start dealing with that as well. So from my perspective, more opportunity for advertising, more opportunity to create new things in advertising. And as Mark said, the other guys are not going away. Those are fierce competitors. So rising tide raises all ships. I think we're just going to see more opportunity, more things going on for everybody.
Awesome. One final question. I'm going to leave you with this. Julia, you'd mentioned personas, AI-generated personas, and those kind of things as part of the new model. One of the questions we've got here, Stagwell has a compelling approach going forward. Do you feel that the Stagwell approach around persona development, monitoring, and action to the consumer will eliminate the role of companies like Nielsen, Ipsos, Kantar in the marketplace as a service provider, or do you think they're data sources which are going to be drawn upon? How do you think about that? How might the team think about that?
I'm always torn by that question because I'm rooted in in the analysis of actual data. So in some ways, I often bristle at the creation of personas. But let me flip it around. Personas don't drop out of the sky. We don't just say, oh, let's get an IR persona and replace Ben, right? In order to do that, I need a vast amount of data and information. So I need to suck in all that information from Nielsen. I need actually more data than ever before to drive a persona. The thing about a persona is that it can uniquely turn around and give me what looks like a response to immediate questions, right? And then is actually a way of interpreting Nielsen and other data sets, through generative and other AI that go into the creation of the persona. So if you understand it that way, you're understanding that that personas are data vacuums, right? Otherwise, you get a completely vacuous persona, that could be in the movie being there, but really couldn't, in fact, satisfy what you're really demanding of.
Yeah, I think Mark has exactly the right point. And and while we build personas based on a lot of different data sources, like the ones mentioned earlier, and certainly wouldn't be able to do them without that kind of data. There are plenty of other ways that we can access data that is a bit unique. Like one thing that we've been doing a lot lately, and ties back to actually the previous question about retail search, is scraping Amazon reviews and using AI to distill down Amazon reviews and understanding the different personas of people who are volunteering their opinions in public forums. And then because they are public forums and they are tied to an actual human being, we're able to see at scale, well, what other kinds of things are they purchasing on Amazon? And can you create unique clusters of people based on that level of retail data that isn't necessarily even behind a walled garden because it's all out in public? So I think there's a steady source of data that's constantly streaming in, and you need people to open your eyes to different ways of thinking about getting access to those kinds of data. But then you need the technology to distill it and build something that you can actually tangibly do with it. So I think it's funny, these questions, like there's never a silver bullet of like what's gonna take X out of business, or are we gonna eliminate the need for people? It's no, we're finding new ways to work differently with incredible talent that we have, but we're able to maximize their impact because we're giving them tools to think and work differently.
And again, remember, to Julia's point, the key is always going to be to refresh that data with real data, not to refresh it with data that was created by the persona, which I think is the trick. Because if you read the stories of what others are doing, they think that there's a game there about, oh my God, look at this, because we're now creating our own data and we can feed this data back in. So what you've done is you've created this loop that you have no idea like what's real, what's not real. You constantly have to have real insight, which is why I think, again, our platforms are so interesting, and our ability to use Harris and what we get from real human beings and then feed back into this loop. The human loop becomes the critical point of differentiation and leverage.
I think that's, sorry, go for it, Mark.
No, I think we're at our time, and I hope people enjoyed this little seminar on what's going on at Stagwell. Ben, any closing words?
Yeah, just thank you all, Julia, to Mark, to David. I think a great insight. Any investor questions we didn't get round to, we'll try and answer some of those in the investor newsletter. Please do keep an eye out. We're going to be trying to do 5 or 6 more of these over the course of the next few months, focused on some of our other capabilities as well. Hopefully you found it useful. And any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to IR. We're always happy to answer it. But thank you very much for being here. And thank you to our speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.